This was another one that was a little bit hard to take off. So what I do when I'm taking them off is I grip them in between the treads, and then I only grip them on the nut. So anywhere there's damage, literally takes less than a minute. It's less than a minute to do, and it's no harm to give it all just a quick filing. Some of these can be dirty, there can be kind of rust built up in them and stuff. So it all makes putting it back together a lot easier. And the back end of this tractor will not need any more attention when we get all the brakes and the half shaft seals and the rear wheel bearings shimmed up, get the right end flow on them. It'll be A1. So we put the effort into the nuts and bolts now. It'll hopefully be perfect for a good while. So this one again, I was missing its spring washer, so I have another one there from the bag of spring washers. So look through these a little bit more and see. So some of them you can see they're, you know, the nut is screwed right up to the end. I don't really like that. I prefer the stud to go in the whole way, ideally, because then you have these threads exposed and muck and dirt, and especially tractors that were working on scrapers would say that were scraping up dung and that, like they suffer very badly around here. So the same crack here. Take off the spring washer, that actually has one on it. Put it in. I know this one's going to be a little bit challenging because of the amount of threads that are exposed, and so I might use the long bar extension for this. What I do is put my hand underneath here and make sure it's not turning, because if it is, well, that's actually coming easy. If it is turning, you're just going to damage it. Now, as I said, you can file it, but if possible, it's best just to grip it properly once, stop it turning. But this is where it's getting a little bit stiff, and it's meeting the rust. Straighten her up a bit. It's moving, tighten it. And if the nut is in bad condition, all you have to do is, what I find, is just loosen it out a bit. You don't have to go taking it off. Loosen it out, hit it with the drill with the wire brush. Because you want it good and stiff, because if the nut is stiff, it'll actually thread in the stud the whole way into the axle. And that way you're not leaving threads exposed like they were. This is still fairly stiff, which I don't mind as long as the nut is in good nick. Let's see how that's looking now. Yeah, that's good. It's hot. Now, so give a grip on that. Hit it with the wire brush now and see how does it turn out. If it's good and square, we'll leave it. So this looks to be usable again. A little bit pitted in here and there, but it's going to be grand. So I'll just give it a tap there with the wire brush on the front, where I can see what's the wire brush is clean. Finish it off. So now we went from fairly unusable at the start to usable, so I'm just going to touch up that little bit of damage there with the file. And as I said, that nut is good and stiff on it, so that means when I go threading this in, there's more chance that the threads of the stud will go right in. And there's the other bit of damage there. I know this is a bit of work. There's 12 of them, but they do have an important job. So now, match up another spring washer. So that's one there. It's the amount of these that are missing. It's a bit worrying, but anyway, they do get fairly corroded. So here's another one here I have to work with. It's not mighty. Spring washer is on it, it's okay. This is fairly well screwed down. There's a lot of kind of a cap of dirty grease and dirt and rust on that. So I'm feeling the breaker bar is going to be needed here as well. Good grip, center of the vise, because you put it out there it can start flexing the vise. And underneath, make sure it's not turning. It's coming easy so far until it hits that rust. I'd say it'll get a little bit stiffer. Oh, it's coming lovely. Surprised at that. Wow, a nice cap of that's actually that actually looks like a nice little nut underneath it all, but maybe that grease and stuff preserved it. So these are the half shaft studs. No, I suppose not many people would bother doing all this, but the tractor was painted before, and it was all painted over all this kind of grease and oil. At least now we've turned that from something that didn't really, it was hard to know what was on the end of it, to something that's very usable. So again, same crack here, missing we weren't missing a spring washer on this one. So there you go. So that's that done. That's 5 done. So I'm going to keep going here and see how we get on. This is a stud that had a bit of bother getting the nut off. I had to tap on a way smaller socket to actually get it to fit around it. So I'm going to give that a retread. So what I do here is I pick up the nut that I'm going to use and I match up the the tap. So if this screws in as it does, you read the size of that, it says 7/16. So then you get the die 7/16. See which side is for starting. . be a little bit shaky at start just to get it to catch. But because that nut was screwed down too far, corrosion just set in and just kind of damaged the first few threads, so this should cut them. I couldn't get the new nut to thread, and now look, considering I use a breaker bar to get off the nut, we're back to easy peasy. So this is going to be another stud that I'm going to use to stick in the axle first for lining everything up. So what I'll do is, usual story, find where it's damaged there and just give it a filing off. One set of half shaft studs with 11/16 imperial nuts, spring washers. We got away with only having to replace 2, so they'll be going into the axle, as I said, just with the studs to help line things up. So now the next job to do is put the half shaft in here and start giving it a clean up. I want to get all that old grease out of there because these weren't fitted with a grease nipple. Don't ask me why. The grey gold 35s weren't fitted with a grease nipple, but the Ferguson 20s were. So you have to pack them with grease, and it stays in there for a long time. So all of this has to come out. I'm going to get the air gun in at the end. I'm going to blow everything out, and then it'll have to come in here for another dart to this, and then another air gun, and it should be ready for new grease. But I won't be putting new grease in there until I have to shim the end flow, so I have to get the right amount of pressure in there on the bearing. The bearing feels fantastic. So yeah, you can see the grease going over there now. Give it a good clean down. Easier for handling it then as well. It's a dirty job if you don't have one of these parts washing. I wouldn't be using that in water based like a power washer. It's fairly heavy. Oh, let it drip. Yeah, that's the job. So, let that drip and air gun it then, and back in here for another quick wash. The air gun will clean it out properly. I'll be able to see if there's that left in it, and that should do it then. That'll be ready for shims, I suppose, and grease. Give the half shaft a bit of a wash out to get the bearing cleaned, so I'm letting it drip there now. I'll get the air gun then and blow out all between all of them rollers. Back in here for another quick bath, another blowout, and then I'll be able to shine a torch in, make sure everything's all right. So strange enough, the 35, both the grey gold and the red Massey 35, don't have grease nipples. On the Ferguson 20 they do actually have a grease nipple here on the axle, and it means you can keep topping up your grease. So it's very important this is cleaned out well and that you pack it with loads of grease. So this yoke here now makes cleaning it out child's play. So let that drip. The less of that diesel and kerosene that's knocking about when I use an air gun, the better, because the less that's going to land on me. So that's what we want. So that's how we're getting nice clean. Next job, we'll have a look and see what's next. Here's a cup of coffee and a word of advice. Bring out the makings of a coffee. Have a shed kettle. Because if I go inside, and if my wife hears the kettle boiling, she'll ask me to do the hoovering. It's conveniently located between the antifreeze and the Ferguson 20 piston assembly. excuse the bad lighting, put on my headlamp. So I want to take out this seal. Probably was just about starting to leak. Yeah. Regardless, it's for the Busker Brewsker now anyway. It's for the bin. And we can clean out all that old grease. It's nasty enough now, in fairness. In there a while. Take our anti-grease wipes, degreaser wipes. We've nothing against grease. We shouldn't be calling them anti-grease. It's the cheapest form of maintenance, if you ask me. Better cleaned out to see what we're working with. Dirt under there. We'll give that a rub with a wire brush there just to clean it off a bit. That stuff building up on the back there. So I've new seals obviously ordered, and they tap in very handy. You just get a washer with the same weight. No point using the old seal, it's not strong enough. I want it to go in nice and straight. So that's ready for another bit of white paper, clean bit of white paper now. And I'm just going to hit this with a drill with a bit of sandpaper, a disc sandpaper, just to take any burrs out of it, because over the years maybe someone might have put a pry bar in there, so you'll see a little mark. And we want that nice and flat so that everything lines up and the bearing is perfectly true as well. So give it a dry off. Middling coarse sandpaper. Throwing that and going up there. Don't mind here, we can clean it. So you get the idea, that kind of crack. I'll do a bit more of that now, and we'll get it just, you can see a few marks here and there on it. Just be worried that any of them would be a little bit high. It doesn't have to be precision engineering, but definitely there's a burr there anyway, I can feel it, so give him a bit more attention there. It does make sense that that's where someone was putting in a pry bar. I just make sure there is a bevel there, so I like to just clean that back a bit, because again, that's where the pry bar would have went in if it went anywhere. Again, not everyone's going to do this, but I prefer to make sure that any of these mating surfaces are A1. And the same, well, suppose I'm putting on a new backing plate. If it's the backing plate, I'm using the old one, I'd have to do the same thing as well. Polish it up. So I'm going to keep going at this till I get that a bit cleaner looking, and we'll call that ready for a new seal, and then eventually shim, backing plate, axle. Probably being a bit too fussy, but this is my whetstone, and just wrap this fairly tightly around it. It's nice and flat. I'd say that is probably good enough now, to be honest with you. A little bit dark here and there, so I might just hit that a little bit more at the top, just there. But the rest of that seems to be good. Any of them dark spots are actually low spots, so they're not high. You can't catch them with your fingernail. In fact, it's nearly like it's in the casting. Mightn't be any low spot at all, actually. Yeah, it's just in the casting. So I'm going to hit the top there a bit more, and it'll be 110%. That'll do. That's A1. Brilliant. So now, same thing. Bit of degreaser. And what I do then is get my air gun and I blow all these holes out this way, because there's obviously a build up of stuff I've been filing in there and sanding and all of that. And then just where the seal goes in one last time, so that it taps in nice and straight and true, and let that dry itself, and we'll call that done until the seal comes. So just going to clean the back of it there, because it's a little bit grimy.